you'd like to find yourself a comfortable spot, standing to what side, Rob's going to be up here, and it's almost his turn to go.
It is. Thank you, Tony Webb. So, Dear Div, Agus Falter, Ya Pulinga. That's hello and welcome in Irish, Gilga and Palawa, which may have been a little bit mispronounced. Gorab Mil Ma Agav Os Chet. 1,000 thanks to you all for coming. One of the tools in the toolkit of colonisation is language. Gerald of Wales in the 12th century wrote of the Irish, "This people then is truly barbarous, being not only barbarous in their dress, they learn nothing and practice nothing but the barbarism in which they are born and bred." Edmund Spenser wrote, "The good land on offer in Ireland could be made proper use of by reducing the savage nation." Barbarous, idolatrous, wicked, degraded, brutes, savages, weeds, overpopulating rabbits, drunken beggars, and Antichrist were all employed over the centuries in English commentaries about the Irish. One writer, Charles Kingsley, in a letter from Ireland in 1860, referred to the Irish people, he observed in his travels, as white chimpanzees. The magazine Punch, well into the later part of the 19th century, published sketches of Irish men as sometimes violent and at other times subservient apes, comically dressed in battered top hats and vests. The rhetoric didn't pause when the potatoes were rotting in the ground and mass starvation had begun in the mid-19th century, while food produced in Ireland was being shipped to London for British commercial profit. The English paper The Economist in 1846 wrote, "Irish distress is brought on by their own wickedness and folly." This language used over centuries laid a justifying foundation for invasion, land theft, social disempowerment, and cultural repression. The native language of the Irish, Gilga, with its deep connection to land, sea and sky, was targeted for eradication. In classrooms, children were physically punished whenever they used Irish words. Use of the language was slowly eradicated, save for on the West Coast. Thankfully today, there is renewed interest in the language. The ancient Irish system of restorative law, the Brehon laws, were framed as primitive and pushed aside so that the British legal system focused on possession, punishment and retribution could reign supreme. The application of convict transportation to the Irish was an ultimate double impact act of colonisation. Native Irish were uprooted from their home, separated from their families, and then folded into colonising further territories here in Australia. We are born and shaped by complicated colonising histories. And so, with all of that in mind, feeling the resonance and connection of that Irish experience with the brutal colonising history that has impacted the traditional owners of this island, Lutruwita. Calling to mind the 41,000 years of human history on this island, languages shaped by this land, the songs of generations that sounded across waters, through valleys, and over mountains, and the presence of First Nations communities today celebrating their culture and keeping alive language and tradition. I acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the Palawa and Pakana people. I acknowledge any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who might be here today. And I pay my respect to leaders past and present. Now I'm going to have a drink of water. So we're launching a book today, in case anybody didn't know. We're launching Con into the world today. And this book is the culmination of a journey that has gone on for decades. And it didn't begin with me. My father, Don Donnelly, retired in the late 1980s. Retirement was a very welcome turn of events for him. His working life was a hard slog. And when he retired, it coincided with a greater and easier access to convict records. Dad started going into town to the State Library, just very nearby, to sit in front of microfiche machines in search of the ancestors. I remember him coming home with the printed out records of Cornelius Donnelly and his brother James. The quality of the printout wasn't great at that time, but it was good enough to read the basic details, that the brothers stole clothes, that their trial was at Downpatrick, and they were sentenced to 7 years transportation. I had a passing interest, but it was really Dad's thing. A few years later, I was living in Sydney, desperately trying to be a holy man as a novice in a Catholic religious order. My novitiate year involved living in a wider community that was largely made up of old, sometimes cranky Irish friars. I learnt my first Irish expression from Father Mickey Brown from Donegal. He pulled me aside one day and he said to me, and I won't do an Irish accent, Liz in the back there says my Irish accent's shocking. He said, "You know, Rob, St. Paddy's Day's coming up, so you should know the proper greeting to say to the Irish. You make sure to tell them, Pog Mahone." I later found out, thankfully before I'd said it to too many people, and particularly before I'd said it to the novice master, that Pog Mahone translates as kiss my ass. The novitiate was attached to a large retreat centre and some local women worked as the cooks. They served up curry and rice one day, and I still remember the grief-stricken look on my novice master Paddy's face. "Where's the potatoes?" And then old brother Kieran, who always sat at the end of the table and much preferred the company of his cattle to the fries, grumbled, "There's none, Paddy. None to be had at all, Paddy." I've never seen old men so saddened at the outrageous plight. It was as though Angorta Moor, the great hunger, had descended on the Friars' dining room and all hope had been rent asunder. A year before, when I visited the community and was thinking about joining the order, I was asked about my ancestry. They noted my surname was Donnelly. I told them I had Irish ancestors and they came out to Australia as convicts. Now, Father Terry, who had this great beard and he was like this mad Old Testament prophet, he's on the other side of the table and he leans across and he fires up and he says, "They were no convicts, Robert. They were patriots." I was often perplexed by the old men I lived in community with, and more often than not, I wondered what on earth it meant that I was descended from such people. After novitiate, I was living in Melbourne, studying theology, still trying to secure the holy halo. I visited St Francis Church in the city, and there was a computer terminal in the foyer, which was quite unusual. And the sign beside it said it was available for people to search the church database for family members. I remembered that Dad had found Cornelius and Bridget married in the church, so I typed in Cornelius's name, and there were their details on the screen, married in the very place that I was standing. There was something in that moment that made their lives personal to me. I felt them there with me. I didn't get serious on the family history front until some years after I jumped the monastery wall. In a sense, I joined Dad on his journey, and I'm forever grateful that we had that shared experience over quite a number of years. It was a great thing to uncover unknown details about the life of Con, Bridget and their offspring. The National Library's Trove search engine has been a brilliant resource in filling out details that we had no idea about, details that I will leave unsaid because no one likes spoilers. You can discover them in the book. Researching family history has led to connecting with family in that broader sense of clan, and that is a truly beautiful thing. Looking out today, seeing so much family. It's no surprise because Cornelius' son John married Mary and they had 13 kids. So it makes for a big clan. I've had various emails from second cousins over the years wanting to know about our family history. It's brilliant that some of those cousins are here today and I get to meet you face to face. I had various versions of sharing Con's story over the years, but it was inevitable that the end result would be a book. I sent an early version off to an editor in Cork because I wanted to be authentic for his feedback. I presumed he was Irish. As it turned out, he was in fact an Englishman living in Cork. Despite the confusion over nationality, he gave me some invaluable feedback. What you've written's fine, and I might know some publishers who might be interested in it as it is, but I feel like you haven't settled on the book that this is meant to be. Once I got over my initial aggravation, and Liz is the only witness to what my aggravation would be like, I started reflecting on the question of what this book was meant to be. The truth about writing is, on a good day, and maybe more so on a bad day, it's a kind of madness. It involves a sensitivity to strange promptings, voices that are other than yours, that restlessly kick around in your psyche, wanting to be let out. After a time of soaking in the details of people and places, systems of justice and injustice, old stories and new discoveries, it all begins to come alive, and before you know it, you begin having creative labour pains with the whole damn thing busting to get out of you. I point to Richard because he made reference to such things. The answer to what the book was meant to be was a mad proposition. Those of you who have bought the book, this is a mad book to have bought. Now you bought it. It's a mad proposition that Con will tell his story from one moment to the next. That the silenced experience of surviving the probation era convict system would finally be given expression. And that 1840s to 1850s Van Diemen's Land would be conjured as though present in the here and now for readers. To achieve this, I aimed to stay true to all the factual details I'd uncovered about Cornelius Donnelly, his brother, and all I had come to learn about Belfast and Van Diemen's Land of that era. You'll find, for people who just want the facts, and I can understand that, you'll find there's an afterword in the book, and it connects what is in the novel with the factual details and the sources of inspiration. Alright, so I want to thank some people before launching into a reading, if people want a reading to happen. I'm forever grateful to my wife Liz, over there, who's been selling books, doing a marvellous job, for her love and rock-solid support. Thank you for the many times of encouraging me, reminding me that my writing matters, and understanding the often strange state I'm in at the end of a writing day. Lovely. Many thanks to my old schoolmate, Dave Dalton. I point the finger at you, sir. Dave and I reconnected quite a few years ago over the shared love for poetry, and Dave is a fine poet himself. He also, back in the day, was an excellent cartoonist. I asked Dave to be an early reader of Con, and he went above and beyond by doing a close read with much appreciated editorial feedback. So many thanks, Dave, for that. I also really appreciated Dave fed back to me that his son had said that I write excellent action scenes. and that was probably one of the best bits of feedback I've had. So please pass on my thanks to your son. Thanks to Richard Bradburn, the English editor in Cork, who I mistook for an Irishman. That critical feedback really made the difference in leading me to trust the mad, creative instinct to let loose the novel that was busting to be written. Thanks to Pascal Hutton, who's based in France. This is quite an international kind of project, for creating a terrific cover that captures both institutional weight and confinement, but also, Cousin Martin, the freedom of birds in flight. Yeah. A shout out to a fine young actor based in Sydney, Kieran Diarmid O'Riordan. Kieran is working on voicing Con and assorted others for the audiobook. His father's Irish, but not from the north, so Kieran is working really hard to fine-tune his already impressive delivery, and I'm really looking forward to the end result of that. I'm forever grateful to the great band of Irish creatives who have touched and inspired me with their irrepressible and contagious culture of Ireland, from the Sean Noss singers to the many writers who have taken words and spun them into wonder that spans from the tragic to the comic to the utterly absurd. Thank you, Dad, for starting the family history work. And thank you, Con, and all you ancestors for surviving the many, many slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. And for today's event, I thank my good friend, Eileen, who's been busy with the camera and was just about to take a photo. I ruined the moment. So thank you for taking, I'm sure, beautiful photos. And many thanks to the staff of the New Sydney Hotel, which is the perfect venue for an Irishman who loved a drink. And again, I thank you all for coming today. I am an independent writer by intention, so this book will rely on word of mouth rather than the well-oiled machinery of the literary industry. So if you've bought a book and enjoyed it, I'd appreciate you spreading the word by whatever means is available. If you think of someone who might enjoy it as a Christmas present, go on, knock yourself out. If by some strange chance you didn't like it, there's an Irish expression, biggie Q. Just a biggie Q. So thank you all. And I don't know whether to go straight into doing a reading of the book or... I better book. read. I was wondering if my Aunt Helen might announce the launch of Con.
I hereby announce Con.
Well done. That's all right. I think you did perfectly. Thank you. All right, it's now officially launched. No, it's been available on Amazon since midnight. So I'm going to, for those who want to follow along, I'm heading for chapter 4, The Crime. And again, I won't do an Irish accent. Okay, Liz?
Yes.
It's Wednesday, and I'm on the road with Jimmy. We've been locked out one too many times from the mill. Now we're out of work, overdue the rent and walking hungry. There wasn't even a sip of tea for breakfast. My belly's some fierce creature gnawing me. My head's the worse for it, dizzy and aching. Jimmy is moody as all hell and buried in his head. Just as well, if he came at me with his needling, I'd clout the boy without a hesitation. I'm looking out for food as we walk. A handful of blackberries would be enough. Purple stained fingers and sweet popping in my mouth. The sheer glory of a thing like that. Even a tart old crabapple would do the trick. Anything to feed this desperate beast. It's times like this imagining turns devil itself. All manner of thoughts are pitchforking in my skull. Potatoes cooked with bacon fat. Sweet Jesus, the thought of it. I can almost smell it. The smell would be enough. My stomach quivers at the thought. My heart starts pounding through my head. Nothing but the ravenous beast in me. A man can do all manner of things to see it gone. It's hunger keeps the magistrates in a job. Stealing bread, stealing a miserable oat cake, stealing a hunk of pork. Down comes the unjust gavel on it all. 3 months hard labour, 6 months hard labour, a trip on the high seas. That's the old assizes in a nutshell. Well-fed magistrates, full of gas and porcine bluster, judging the poor for grabbing an answer to their deadly circumstances. There's nothing new in any of that drama when it comes to me or my brother. And now I'm all awash with the dark, the good old, age-old family legacy, a memory seared by all that's wrong, a heavy frown and narrowed eyes to fit. When there's no food, teeth can bite and rip that bitter flesh injustice. We once were kings, or something close enough. I look at Jimmy, he's in that same place, ruminating just like our old Dar, the family curse of moody cogitation. Donnelly's laughing. Surely life is something more than this, something more. Such a troublesome thought, that's something more, when all around what you see is something less. And all the less boils down to this. Everything that was our ancient best was stolen by the bloody English. It's a short walk over the bridge and past the Marquis of Donegal's estate. They say he's the world's unluckiest gambler, yet there he is, splendid in his poverty. I wouldn't mind a share of that kind of misery, with the fine house and the beech trees and the view across the Lagan to the town. I think I could do quite nicely in such deplorable circumstances. Jimmy, how about we knock on Chichester's door for a drink? My brother's not in the mood. He doesn't even bother to look my way. He just keeps on with his dogged stride, head down and on a mission. Ballynafay is a world away from the crowded tenements and back alleys we call home. It's country cottages, vegetable patches, elm trees and green fields, backyards with chickens, and a house cow on larger properties for the milk and butter. It's a place where a clerk might make his home, enough wealth to employ a servant, if not every day, then a few days every week, enough wealth to take on day labourers for fence mending and the like, enough wealth to have something worth stealing, but not so much that it's safely tucked inside the thick walls of a manor house. More than one local gives us the up and down. We're the kind who don't belong. They can see the desperation in the hollow of our cheeks and sniff the native Catholic in our sweat. They've been edgy out this way since May, when a house was stripped of all its linen and clothing by a daring band of midnight robbers. The family slept right through it. A house full of plump chickens who woke up plucked. Keep your eyes open, Jimmy says. I give him the grunt he deserves. We come to a house, and there's a pile of fine clothes in a basket beside the door. Seems there's no one around. I look at Jimmy and he looks at me. His crooked grin signs off the plan. I reach out and feel the material in my grip. Fine linen from the underpaid slavery of a mill. A thick coat to ward off the worst of the approaching winter. The fluted contours of a brocade pattern on a jacket for the kind of occasions I've never known. I feel that handful of fine woven wealth, and I could let it go, but I don't. There's a fierce possession in my grip. If the world won't set things right for the likes of me and my family, then I will. My will is there in the grab and take. This is how I claim the life I want. My heart thunders with a fearful spark of liberation as me and Jimmy bolt down the road, clothes in hand without a hesitation. And now it's noises and voices, cries of distress and outrage. There's a steady rising sound of boots on gravel, like a dark wave rising up behind us. And the air's torn through with their ferocity. Thieves! Thieves! We are running, me and Jimmy, running for our lives. We're running till the air is burning in our lungs and our hearts are close to breaking with the urgency. And all we need is to get back across the lake and lose ourselves in the thick of our own. All we need is the safe fold of our home and our Da's cranky wisdom and our Mary's cutting judgment and our little brothers with their eyes full of wonder looking up at us as though we ruled the world. All we need is a chance in a world that's desperate poor in giving chances to our kind. And we're almost at the bridge, even as our legs are straining with the speed, even as the clothes are dropping from our hands. But the voices are closer, and I can feel the heat of them behind me, and I can feel the grip of hands about me. And then I'm twisting and falling, and all the world is falling down on me. And I'm gone, as ever I have been, as all the life is knocked right out of me. And I'm an empty, fallen boy, hard pressed to the gravel. So I could do another one if you want. What's the vibe? Do another one? Not a great surprise to everybody, otherwise we would not be here today. And it's been a 4-month journey, and it's had its trials and tribulations, And now the ship is basically down in Storm Bay, or a little bit upriver from there. And as soon as the coast was seen, the west coast, the prisoners had to remain down in the cells. So the normal routine at sea was they could come up and do exercises and air linen and all that sort of stuff and go back down. But as soon as land appears, they're locked up underneath. Next morning, there's a clamour beside the ship, then on the deck above, and then there's unknown voices and the lilt of exchanged greetings. We can hear snatches of talk. There's rumour in the town that the ship is full of smallpox, and our arrival is far from welcome. There's something more about too many convicts on the island already. There's a laugh over some muttered aside, and then some further murmuring that we can't decipher. The strangers come down with the surgeon. They are no sooner here than they're looking about at us like farmers eyeing cattle at market. The surgeon first tells us they are from the colony's Board of Health and we are to cooperate with them fully. They don't look like doctors. They have the manner of government scribblers, men with narrow eyes and ink-stained souls. Before long we know that's exactly what they are, the principal superintendent and officers of the colony's probation department. They are to go through us one by one, haul us into one room and then another, first with the questions and then a physical examination. Soon enough I stand in front of two of them who are sitting behind a table with their thick ledgers. They barely bother to look at me, their faces buried in the books as they fire their questions at me. They check on my name, age, place of birth, religion, whether I can read and write, single or married, family members, the crime committed, the sentence, previous crimes, behaviour in the prison and on the ship. I answer and watch their endless scribbling. It's as though they've got nothing better to do with their time but to write a book about me. I almost make a joke about it, but decide I'd better not, given these ones will probably decide my destiny. There's been some chat that skills are the important bit. We've heard from those who've read letters from others that if you get your skills right, then it makes an easier life. I hear some men trotting out a story. The bad liars get well grilled and set right. The good liars can barely stop themselves from smiling when they come out the other side. There's no greater joy than getting one over those bastards in their fine sewn clothes and neat high hats. Jimmy and I aren't really made for lying. One feeble attempt and our faces shine bright with it. Jimmy says it's the heavy hand of faith stirring up our blood with conscience. All I know is it's a damned inconvenience. The only honest skill that we can name is flax dresser. So that's what we both decide to say. The scribbler answers me with a crooked grin. I'll know who to ask for if I need new linen. A pen-pushing prick, if ever there was one. Seems we might be bound for an island full of them. I answer all their questions and then I'm ordered to the next room. The men in there tell me to strip off everything. I give them the hardest look I can muster, but there's no getting around their order. Off comes my shirt and trousers, and there I am, naked as the day I was born. They set to looking at me, every inch of me. No one's ever looked me over so intensely. I stand there praying I won't get a lamentable reaction. God knows the body has its own mind in peculiar circumstances. One man looks me over while another one scribbles. The looker yells out, eye colour, height, shape of my head, that I'm missing a finger and that another one's broken. He tilts my head this way and the other. He pokes around checking my gums, my limbs, having a thorough check for any marks or tattoos. The strangers seem satisfied, order me to dress, then out I go. I join the other well-inspected cattle. Seems we've passed muster, and now we're ready for the market. After all that business, when the strangers leave, there's the sound of scurrying feet above, muffled commands, unfurled sails, then the sudden lurch as a breeze catches hold of the canvas and the ship starts upriver. There's a great buzz in the air. It doesn't matter what this place is like, it's somewhere. It's a start to something. Maybe that's enough. Munro has come down and is giving us instructions. There will be a system for coming off the ship. Of course there will be a system. A man can't take a shit in the morning without fitting inside a system. There will be perfect compliance or there will be serious repercussions. That's the most grinding thing. Every flicker of a flame snuffed out by the petty decrees of their noxious empire. Every ounce of strength harnessed to meet another man's needs or to be ground under the heel of a threat. Some hope the rule-bound life might loosen once we're on dry land. Even a slight loosening would be welcome. Surely the wild of this place at the arse end of the known world is enough to break the feeble reach of English rules. Maybe here we might be more ourselves than we could be back home. What a strange thought that is to have. I swear, I don't even know what it means, but it stirs something inside me even so. After some hours, there's a volley of orders above, and then the ship abruptly shudders as it bumps and grinds against a dock. The long floating world of the Emily 2 is now tethered to something solid. There are more unfamiliar voices, the sound of a flock of gulls erupting somewhere to the side. Eyes dart in all directions in the semi-dark world of cells. Some men are braced and anxious, some are excited. Everyone is ready to feel solid earth beneath our feet. Whatever is to come will come. 7 years, just 7 years, and after that the rest of life. All good enough for us young men and boys, but a harder proposition for the old ones, with the lines of grief that they can never shake. Poor bastards. I look at Jimmy as I'm ordered on my feet and start the iron-bound shuffle towards the ladder. There's a constant bark, silence. I move up and into that world of hard southern light. It takes a moment to readjust after days in the dark of the cells. I feel greedy to take in everything I can see when all I've seen for months has been the ocean and the sullen inside belly of the ship. I stop for a moment and take my first look at this new world. Directly across is a long row of warehouses and merchant offices, and a fine larger building along to the right, and more store buildings further down to the left. There's a great pile of timber in front of the large building, and a few town people gathered to gossip with their fierce, appraising eyes stabbing at us. There are well-dressed men in tall hats and frock coats darting in and out of offices, papers in hand, serious business knotted in their brows, all as though to say progress is afoot. A couple of craggy-faced ancients are smoking pipes and sharing a joke in the doorway of an inn. There are carts going back and forth, the clatter of hooves, the sweet stink of horse shit. Further up the hill, above the warehouses, there's a large windmill in motion, and a nearby church tower that's half finished beneath a timber scaffold. A gang of rough-dressed weans are calling out as they race up stony stairs. Their voices have a different sound. Not Irish, not English. It's a kind of easy drawl that's unfamiliar to my ears, but their wings up to trouble all the same, so not that different from Belfast. I come down from the boat and set foot on land. It sways as though in my time at sea the solid earth has become ocean, and the ocean now solid earth. My eyes move ever upwards until I see the looming presence of a mountain. It's a great blue brooding thing that makes the township small. It's as though the wild has raised its hand and said, "This far and no more." My eyes are lost in it, and I feel some unfathomable promise. It's there above, and not so far, that wild beyond the pale, the promise of some greater life to come. That'll do with the reading of the book. I'll leave the rest to yourselves. And I'll be available over there if people want my signature. And I have to say, regarding my signature, it's a shocker. It's a squiggly line, and I have memories of my brother Shane, who's videoing right now, that way back in the day, he worked very hard to perfect his signature, and he has a lovely one. My father had a lovely one. My oldest brother Rick had a lovely signature. Mine's just this crooked dog leg of a thing. What can you do?
Them's the brakes, mate.
So anyway, anybody who wants their book signed, I'll be over at that table. Thank you all very much.